The Allegheny National Forest sprawls across northwestern Pennsylvania, a tapestry of ancient pines and hidden hollows where the earth seems to breathe secrets. Its trails promise escape, a chance to shed the weight of city life and sink into nature's embrace. But some places are not what they seem. Beneath the canopy of stars, where the wind whispers through needle-laden branches, something else moves. Something that watches, waits, and speaks in hollow clicks that echo like a language from another world. This is the story of Mike and Sarah, a couple seeking solace in the wilderness, only to find themselves hunted by creatures that defy explanation, creatures that should not exist. My name is Mike, a graphic designer from Pittsburgh, bound to screens and deadlines until a camping trip with my partner Sarah and our dog Andy promised freedom. For 3 days, we planned to lose ourselves in the forest's isolation, far from cell service and the clamor of urban life. But the Allegheny had other plans. What began as a retreat became a nightmare, a descent into terror marked by unnatural silences, circling clicks, and a face, pale, beaked, and eyeless, that stared through our tense mesh. This is not a tale of lost hikers or wild animals. It is a warning of what lurks in the shadows of America's forests, watching us with unblinking eyes. Have you ever felt the forest grow too quiet, as if the world held its breath? Would you stay to face what moves in the dark, or run, knowing some truths are better left unseen? The gravel crunched under our tires as Sarah and I pulled into the small parking lot at the edge of Allegheny National Forest. After a 4-hour drive from Pittsburgh, with Andy whining anxiously in the back seat for the final half hour, the sight of the forest's towering pines felt like a release. I cut the engine, and Andy pawed at the window, his tail a blur of excitement. "Someone's eager," I said, unlocking the doors. Sarah laughed, opening the back door, and Andy bolted out, nose to the ground, sniffing the dirt and pine needles as if mapping his new domain. We'd been planning this trip for months. A 3-day escape into complete isolation. No cell service, no hospital emergencies for Sarah, a pediatric nurse drained by understaffed shifts, and no last-minute client revisions for me, a graphic designer tethered to my laptop. The late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting dappled light on the forest floor. The air carried the sharp scent of pine and loamy earth, a reminder of how much I'd missed the outdoors. My eyes, strained from months of staring at screens, drank in the green expanse. "Let's move before it gets late," Sarah said, already pulling her backpack from the trunk. I grabbed Andy's leash and our tent, while she organized food supplies. The trailhead was marked by a weathered wooden sign, its paint peeling but legible, Willow Creek Trail. I checked the map one last time. "The path gets faint about a mile in," I said, slinging my pack over my shoulders. "But it should lead to a clearing perfect for camping." Sarah nodded, cinching her pack tight. "Lead the way, wilderness man." With Andy tugging eagerly, we stepped onto the narrow trail winding into the trees. The path was well-trodden at first, marked by wooden posts and packed earth. But as we ventured deeper, it grew vague, a mere suggestion between the pines. 2 miles in, the trail was barely discernible, forcing us to duck under branches and step over roots. "You sure we're not lost?" Sarah asked, pushing a low branch aside. I checked my compass, its needle steady. "Trust me," I said, though a flicker of doubt crept in. "The clearing's just ahead." 5 minutes later, the trees parted, revealing a wide, flat area ringed by tall pines. A perfect campsite with a stone fire pit left by previous hikers. "Perfect," Sarah breathed, dropping her pack and rolling her shoulders. Andy circled the clearing, nose low, investigating every inch. "Told you it'd be worth it," I said, setting down our gear. Complete isolation. We fell into our camping rhythm. I pitched our 4-person tent. Overkill for 2 people and a dog, but we liked the space, while Sarah organized supplies. I drove the stakes deep, recalling a Michigan trip where a midnight storm nearly collapsed our poorly secured shelter. "Stove's ready," Sarah called, setting up our compact camping stove on a flat rock, water already heating for tea. By the time we'd arranged sleeping bags and collected firewood, the sun was sinking, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. I built a fire in the stone circle as Sarah set up our camp chairs. "This is perfect," she said, settling in as the flames grew. I needed this so badly. The hospital had been brutal for her. Long shifts, sick children, and emotional exhaustion. My own job had been a grind of impossible deadlines and a client who couldn't decide what he wanted. Andy flopped between us, eyes half closed but ears alert, twitching at distant forest sounds. "Hungry?" I asked, reaching for the cooler. "Starving," Sarah replied. I laid out metal skewers and sausages while she opened a bottle of wine. Cooking over an open fire felt primal, a return to something essential missing from our city apartment. "To disconnecting," Sarah said, raising her plastic cup. "To remembering what matters," I replied, clinking mine against hers. The sausages sizzled, fat dripping into the flames. Andy's eyes tracked every movement, his nose twitching hopefully. "Don't even think about it," I teased, though we both knew we'd slip him scraps. As darkness settled, the fire cast a warm glow, the forest beyond fading to black. After dinner, we roasted marshmallows, their golden crusts melting in our mouths. "Look up," I said, pointing through a gap in the trees. The sky was a sea of stars, thousands more than Pittsburgh's light-polluted haze allowed. "That's Cassiopeia," I said, tracing the W-shaped constellation. "And the Big Dipper." Sarah squeezed my hand. "Show off." We talked of future trips, work frustrations, and plans for the year. Conversations we were too tired for at home. The forest wasn't silent but alive with natural sounds. Whined through pine needles, an owl's distant hoot, the fire's crackle. Absent was the city's hum, traffic, sirens, air conditioners. "We should make this monthly," I suggested. "Different parks each time." Sarah leaned her head on my shoulder. "I'd like that." As midnight neared, the fire burned to embers. Andy slept, ears twitching at forest noises. "Ready for bed?" I asked, noticing Sarah's yawn. We doused the fire, ensuring no embers remained, and crawled into the tent. Inside, the tent was cozy, our sleeping bags zipped together. Sarah curled against me, her breathing slowing. Through the mesh window, stars peeked between branches. The forest's gentle sounds, wind, Sarah's breaths, Andy's sighs, lulled me. The hard ground didn't bother me. My shoulders relaxed, tension melting. As I drifted off, I savored the peace, unaware that something would soon shatter it. I woke abruptly at 3 a.m., the tent dark and stifling. Something was wrong. Not the usual discomfort of sleeping on the ground or strange forest sounds, but a deeper unease I couldn't pinpoint. I lay still, Sarah breathing steadily beside me, one arm across her face. Then I noticed it. The wind rustled the pines above, branches creaking, but the tent's nylon walls were utterly still. A breeze strong enough to move tall trees should have stirred the fabric, even slightly. I sat up, careful not to wake Sarah, and grabbed my flashlight from beside my pillow. With a glance at her sleeping form, I unzipped the tent door quietly and slipped outside. The night air was odd, still at ground level despite the wind's whisper in the treetops. I tilted my head, confirming the upper branches swayed against the starlit sky, yet no breeze touched my skin. The fire pit was cold, not a glow in the ashes. I swept my flashlight across the clearing. Camp chairs, firewood stack, cooler, all normal. A soft whine came from the tent, and Andy pushed through the partly open door, squeezing out to join me. His posture was off, hackles raised, tail low and stiff, staring into the darkness beyond the camp. "What is it, boy?" I whispered, following his gaze with my flashlight. The beam revealed only trees and underbrush. Then I heard it click, click, click. A hollow, wooden tapping, like a stick against a tree, but with an empty, resonant quality unlike anything natural. Click, click, pause, click, click, click. Andy pressed against my leg, a low growl building in his throat. I froze, tracking the sound. It moved, circling the campsite at a distance, its rhythm irregular, starting and stopping unpredictably. "Hello," I called softly, not wanting to wake Sarah if this was nothing. "Someone there?" The clicking stopped instantly. I waited, flashlight aimed where I'd last heard it. The forest was silent. No insects, no night animals, just an oppressive quiet. "Hello," I tried again, stepping toward the tree line. Andy didn't follow, backing toward the tent with a worried whine. I hesitated, my pocket knife my only weapon, Andy's behavior unnerving me. Just as I turned back to the tent, the clicking resumed from a different direction. Click, 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 click. I spun, flashlight sweeping the trees, seeing nothing but darkness. I retreated to the tent, Andy ducking inside ahead of me. I zipped the door, Sarah still asleep. Sitting cross-legged on my sleeping bag, I listened as the clicking continued, circling the camp in a wide arc, sometimes seeming to come from multiple spots, though I couldn't tell if it was echoes. For 2 hours, I stayed awake, Andy alert beside me, growling softly when the clicking shifted. Around 5 a.m., as dawn lightened the eastern sky, the clicking faded, growing distant until it stopped. The tent fabric stirred with a faint breeze, the strange stillness gone. Exhausted, I must have dozed off, waking to sunlight filtering through the tent mesh and Sarah stretching beside me. "Morning," she murmured. "How'd you sleep?" "Not great," I admitted, rubbing my eyes. "Woke up around 3 o'clock and couldn't sleep." I recounted the unnatural stillness, the moving trees with no breeze, and the clicking sounds circling our camp. Sarah's expression shifted from concern to amusement. "Sounds like a vivid dream," she said, patting my arm. "Or maybe a woodpecker." "It wasn't a dream," I insisted. Andy heard it too. He was growling. She glanced at Andy, now curled at our feet. "He seems fine now." Sarah unzipped the tent and stepped out to fetch water for coffee. I followed, doubting myself. Maybe my stressed mind had exaggerated normal forest sounds. Maybe the stillness was a weather quirk. But as we prepared breakfast, Andy stayed close, refusing to roam as he had yesterday, his eyes fixed on the tree line. I found myself watching the forest edge, flipping pancakes on our camp stove, unable to shake the memory of those clicks. After breakfast, Sarah suggested hiking to a lake an hour away, a plan we'd made months ago. "Sounds perfect," she said, wiping sweat from her brow as the morning warmed. I nodded, slipping my hunting knife into my pocket without telling her, determined to watch Andy closely. If Sarah thought I was paranoid, so be it. The trail to the lake was narrower, forcing us to walk single file. Andy stayed by my side, glancing back toward the campsite with suspicion, his usual eagerness gone. An hour later, the trees opened to reveal a clear, expansive lake nestled in a valley, rocks lining our shore and dense forest hugging the opposite side. "It's beautiful," Sarah breathed, unlacing her boots. "Last one in Cook's dinner." She stripped to her swimsuit and plunged in. I changed quickly, the cold water a shock that briefly eased my tension. Andy paced the shore, refusing to join us, his ears up, eyes on the trees. "What's up with him?" Sarah asked, floating on her back. "Maybe he's tired," I lied, not wanting to admit his behavior fueled my fears. We swam for an hour, Sarah laughing and splashing, carefree. I tried to join in, but my eyes kept darting to the shore, the forest beyond. After swimming, we dried off on a flat rock overhanging the water. Sarah unpacked sandwiches and fruit, basking in the sun. "This is exactly what I needed," she said. I nodded, barely tasting my food, slipping Andy turkey scraps. His ears perked at distant sounds, keeping me on edge. "What time is it?" I asked, noting the sun's position. Sarah checked her watch. "Almost 2 o'clock. Why?" "Just thinking we should head back soon," I said, aiming for casual. "Takes an hour to camp, and I want time for dinner before dark." Sarah started packing, agreeing we had plenty of time. As we prepared to leave, I calculated how long it would take to pack our campsite for a quick exit, the thought of another night with those clicks tightening my chest. The hike back was quicker, our muscles warmed from the morning. As the campsite came into view, I slowed, scanning for anything amiss. Everything seemed normal. Tent undisturbed, chairs in place, fire pit cold. Andy hesitated at the clearing's edge, needing a tug to enter. "You know," I said, setting down my pack, "maybe we should pack up and find a hotel tonight." Sarah turned, surprised. "A hotel? Why, after hiking out here?" "The tent was warm last night," I offered weakly. "Barely slept. A shower and AC might be nice." Sarah laughed, eyes narrowing. "Since when do you bail on camping because it's warm? What's going on?" I considered confessing. The clicks, the stillness, the forest's wrongness. But her skepticism stopped me. "Nothing," I said. "Just a thought." She studied me, then shrugged. "Let's start dinner."
I'm starving.
As the sun set, I built a fire while Sarah prepared chicken and vegetables in foil packets. I kept glancing at the tree line, listening over the forest's hum. "You're jumpy," Sarah observed, handing me wine. "Still thinking about those clicks?" "Just cautious," I said, the wine doing nothing to calm me. Dinner was delicious, but I barely noticed, my senses tuned to the darkening woods. I piled extra wood on the fire, telling myself the light would deter whatever lurked. Around 9 o'clock, Sarah yawned. "Ready for bed?" I nodded, throat tight. Inside the tent, I placed my knife within reach as Sarah changed and slipped into our sleeping bag. Andy lay at our feet, tense. "Night," Sarah murmured, kissing my cheek. "Night," I whispered, knowing sleep was impossible. I lay awake, listening to Sarah's deepening breaths, the forest's crickets and night animals. At 11:23 p.m., I dozed, only to wake at 1:58 a.m. to absolute silence. No crickets, no birds, just a void. Then it started click, 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 closer than before, right outside the tent. I sat up, Andy already alert, eyes glinting in the moonlight. Click, 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 pause, click. The sounds came from multiple directions, not echoes but distinct sources, circling tightly. Sarah stirred. "Mike?" she mumbled. "Shoo!" I whispered, touching her arm. She sat up, eyes wide. "What is that?" I pointed to the tent wall inches away. The clicks were complex, rhythmic like a conversation. Quick bursts, slow patterns, overlapping voices. Sarah pressed against me, trembling. "There's more than one," she whispered. I nodded, counting at least 3 entities. Andy growled, fur bristling. I quieted him, fearing his noise might provoke them. The GoPro, recording from the tent's corner, was our only hope of capturing proof. For hours we sat frozen, the clicks circling, stopping, resuming from new spots. At 3:22 a.m., I unzipped the tent slightly, shining my flashlight. The clicking stopped instantly. Nothing moved in the beam. I zipped it shut, and the clicks resumed, louder, closer, as if something had advanced during my distraction. By 4 a.m., the clicks were so near I felt vibrations through the ground. I gripped my knife, expecting the tent to tear open. At dawn, the clicks faded, forest sounds returning. Sarah and I didn't move, Andy slumping in exhaustion. When Sarah woke at 7 o'clock, she found me clutching the knife, staring at the tent door. "Did you sleep?" she asked, concerned. I shook my head. It came back, all night, surrounding us. "Maybe we should go home," she suggested, seeing my haggard face. "Something's out there, Sarah," I said hoarsely. "It's not natural." She bit her lip, doubt lingering but shaken by my state. "I know what I heard," I insisted. "It's been watching us since we arrived." She squeezed my hand. "Let's eat and decide what to do." Outside, the forest looked deceptively peaceful. Birds sang, squirrels darted. A breeze stirred the pines. But as we ate breakfast, I noticed something chilling. Our camp chairs, facing the tent last night, now pointed toward the dense forest opposite the clearing. "Sarah," I called, my voice strained. "Did you move the chairs?" She looked up, confused.
No.
"Why?" pointed. They were facing the tent last night. I approached them, checking the ground for footprints. Nothing, just pine needles and twigs. Andy backed away, tail tucked, his reaction amplifying my dread. Probably the wind, Sarah said, but her voice wavered. These chairs weigh 10 pounds each, I countered. It'd take a deliberate push, not a gust. She crossed her arms, rattled. What's your explanation then? Before I could answer, Andy barked sharply, lunging toward the tree line, teeth bared. We spun, scanning the forest. Nothing but dark trunks and flitting birds. Andy kept barking, fixated on a spot in the trees. I've had enough, I said, deciding. I'm setting up my GoPro. Sarah frowned. What for? To see what's visiting when we're not looking. I grabbed the camera from my pack, mounting it on a tree at eye level, angled to capture the campsite. 8 hours of battery should cover our hike. So we're still hiking? Sarah asked, surprised. Yeah, I said, checking the camera. To Rimrock Overlook as planned. But I want this recording. I started the GoPro, ensuring it was hidden but had a clear view. Sarah watched, conflicted. You think something will show up? I need to know, I said. Don't you? She nodded reluctantly, her eyes lingering on the chairs. We packed for the hike, water, trail mix, sandwiches, my knife. Andy seemed relieved to leave, pulling ahead on the trail. The path to Rimrock was better maintained, with markers and wooden steps. Sarah tried rationalizing the events. Maybe local kids playing pranks, she suggested. Miles from any road? I countered. And those clicks aren't teenage pranks. She shrugged. Something not human then? I didn't reply, her words too close to my fears. Rimrock Overlook was stunning. A vista of rolling hills and distant valleys. On another day, I'd have snapped photos. Today, I just wanted to return. We ate lunch on the rocks, Andy staying close. Sarah relaxed slightly, the view easing her tension. I know something's going on, she said. I don't think you're imagining it, not after the chairs. Her acknowledgement relieved me. We hiked back, arriving at camp around 3 p.m. I checked the GoPro first, detaching it and connecting it to my phone. My stomach sank. The files are corrupted, I said. Sarah peered over my shoulder. All of them. Every video showed an error. Maybe the card's bad, she suggested. I didn't believe it. The GoPro was new, the card reliable. Then I noticed the camera's position. It moved, I said, comparing its angle to my memory. I aimed it at the tent. Now it's 20 degrees left. Sarah paled. Are you sure? I lined it up carefully, I insisted. Something turned it while we were gone. We stood in silence, Andy pressing against my legs. We keep the camera with us tonight, I decided. Inside the tent. Sarah nodded, convinced something unnatural was at play. We stayed in camp, building an early fire for comfort. Sarah admitted, I'm scared, Mike. Me too, I said, but we'll be okay. Tomorrow we can leave if we need to. As darkness fell, we ate a quick pasta dinner, barely speaking. I set up the GoPro inside the tent, angled to record the entrance. I'll stay awake as long as I can, I promised Sarah, climbing into our sleeping bag. She held my hand, unable to sleep. Andy sat alert at the tent's entrance, growling at unheard sounds. At 1:47 a.m., I hovered between wakefulness and exhaustion, 2 sleepless nights wearing me down. At 1:58 a.m., the forest went silent. Andy froze, head up. At 2 a.m., the clicking began, click, 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 right outside the tent, inches from the nylon. I sat up, Sarah waking instantly. Mike! Shoo! I whispered, pointing to the wall. Click, 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 click. Sarah grabbed my arm. What makes that sound? The clicks were intricate, like a coded language, coming from multiple sources, 3, maybe 4 creatures circling tightly. Andy growled, teeth bared. I quieted him, fearing provocation. The GoPro recorded silently. For hours we sat frozen, the clicks stopping and starting, sometimes frantic, like an argument. Sarah clutched her phone, thumb over the useless emergency button. At 4:30 a.m., the clicks grew chaotic, Andy's growls intensifying. I gripped my knife, expecting an attack. As dawn broke, the clicks retreated, forest sounds returning. We didn't move until 5:45 a.m., when the clicking stopped. Sarah cried, trembling. "What were they?" "I don't know," I said, grabbing the GoPro. I scrolled to 3:40 a.m., Sarah pointing. "Go back. I saw something." At 3:42 a.m., a face appeared, pale, feather-textured, with a beak-like protrusion and bulging, unblinking white eyes. Pressed against the mesh, watching us for 30 seconds before retreating. Sarah screamed, backing away. "What was that?" I rewound, studying the creature's unnatural features, my stomach churning. "We need to leave," Sarah said, grabbing her pack. "Now." I nodded, the footage confirming our fears. Something inhuman was stalking us, circling each night, studying us with predatory intent. We packed frantically, leaving non-essentials behind. Andy needed to go out, his discomfort urgent. "Be careful," Sarah said as I stepped outside with him, knife in hand. The morning was serene, mist cloaking the ground. Andy peed at the clearing's edge, then froze, staring at the trees. I followed his gaze, catching a pale flash 50 yards away. Something moving unnaturally, then gone. "We're leaving now," I told Sarah, zipping the tent shut. "I saw it in the trees." She nodded, pale, believing me fully. We abandoned the stove and chairs, grabbing only essentials. As we worked, a sound broke the morning. Click, click, click. In daylight, it was worse, defying the creature's nocturnal pattern. Andy barked furiously, lunging toward the trees. Sarah screamed, tripping over supplies. "Get behind me," I said, knife out, stepping forward. The clicks grew louder, coming from across the clearing. Then a man emerged, wearing a park ranger uniform, nameplate reading Wilson. "Good morning, folks," he called, raising a hand. "Everything okay?" Heard some commotion. I stared, knife lowered but ready. Something was wrong. His lips lagged behind his words, like a dubbed film. His steps were too even, his head turning too smoothly. "We're fine," I said tightly, packing to leave. He stepped closer, eyes too wide, too white, unblinking, like the creature's. His uniform was pristine, unnatural for a ranger in the woods. "I'm Ranger Wilson," he said, voice flanging oddly. "Patrolling for illegal campers. Bear sightings recently." Andy barked relentlessly, straining against his collar. "Our dog doesn't usually react this way," Sarah said nervously. "May I see your camping permit?" Wilson asked, stopping 10 feet away. Sarah reached for her pack, but I stopped her, whispering, "Look at his eyes, his mouth." She stared, gasping as she saw the disconnect. Wilson tilted his head 90 degrees, an impossible angle, his human facade slipping. "Is there a problem?" he asked, words trailing into clicks. Sarah screamed as his face twitched, features rippling. "Car keys," I hissed, eyes on the creature. Sarah fumbled them from my pack. "Stay," it commanded, voice blending clicks and speech. "Must examine, must study. Run," I shouted, grabbing Andy's leash and Sarah's arm. We fled, snatching my pack with the GoPro, crashing through bushes toward the parking lot. Behind us, something pursued, snapping branches with no human footfalls, only clicks growing louder. We ran, lungs burning, Andy leading the way. The parking lot appeared, our car alone. Something crashed behind us. I glanced back. The ranger's uniform was splitting, pale, feather-like flesh bursting through, its face half-human, half-beaked, white eyes predatory. Sarah fumbled the keys. I grabbed them, unlocking the car. I threw Andy in the back, Sarah diving into the passenger seat. The engine roared as the creature emerged, barely human, moving too fast. I slammed into reverse, then drive, tires spinning on gravel. Through the rearview mirror, I saw it. A pale, humanoid thing, too thin, joints wrong, beak-like protrusion, unblinking eyes watching. It didn't chase, just stood, head tilted, shrinking as we sped away. Sarah sobbed, Andy whining in the back. "Did you see it?" she asked. "I saw it," I confirmed, gripping the wheel. We didn't speak until the highway, the sun grounding us. "Never again," Sarah said, voice raw. "I'm never camping again. Never?" I agreed, accelerating toward home. The GoPro's footage are only proof of the clicking shadows that hunted us. If you heard clicks circling your tent in the dead of night, would you investigate or pray for dawn? What would it take to convince you something inhuman was watching?